Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Listen, people. Terence Crawford is out here playing chess. Everybody else playing checkers. But this man's playing chess. You see this little thumbnail that I created? You see that image of him sitting there at that chess table? This man's thinking about 154. He's thinking about undisputed. He sees himself as a champion. Now, let me break this down to you, right? Now, I can't take all the credit for this. You know, I'm always thinking outside the box. I don't watch other channels' videos. I just can't do it. I can't take all the bullshit. But I just have a lot of healthy dialogue on my channel. And we're growing. But there's a lot of people who are on this channel who are very smart and who follow boxing. And some of them analyze boxing. And I just think they should have their own channels. Brilliant, brilliant minds. But I have a one partner, man. Y'all should follow him. Follow him on Twitter. Let me pull up so I can tell y'all. I want to make sure I get it right because he is. There's a lot of brilliant minds. But if you go to @MDMills79, he got his stuff together, right? But we were talking about Terence Crawford and trying to understand what exactly is going on. Let me put y'all onto something. When I say Terence Crawford is playing chess, he's not playing checkers. I mean that. Terence Crawford knows. Terence Crawford gonna make a move, and he's gonna drive some people crazy. Him being over there with De La Hoya, him trying to get, I think, a little more muscle behind him, right? What's going on in boxing with Terence Crawford? Some people aren't going to agree with me, and that's fine. We're just having a conversation. I truly believe Terence Crawford is being ostracized, like I said, put on the WBO island, cast away, right? Because people are frustrated that he walked away from the undisputed distinction with Earl Spence. This is a four-belt era. It's extremely difficult for the sanctioning bodies, key decision makers behind the scenes, promoters, and even fighters to get to a point to where they can actually make an undisputed bout, for them to compromise, collaborate, sacrifice, or whatever it takes to come up with the 90% solution. The other 10% is whatever, right? But what I think a lot of people are assuming is that the 90% solution was reached between Crawford's team and Spence's team. And Crawford walked away from the deal. Doesn't matter, he was dealing with BLK Prime before that. If he knew what his intentions were, he was just buying time, playing the game with Al Heyman and those guys. You know, I think Crawford definitely could have done things a little bit differently, right? But anyway, neither here nor there at this point. Now we're talking about an undisputed distinction. Now you see they're giving Crawford and Spence the 60 days. And I'm not going to talk about everything I talk about in other videos. I'm about to take this another direction. Crawford and Spence are giving this little BS 60-day window to try to make a deal. And that 60 days starts after Spence fights Thurman, right? I just did a video about that. You can watch the video. I think Spence and Thurman are going to fight at 147, but go watch the video. But anyway, I've been saying the last several months, I don't think Spence and Crawford are going to fight. But now I definitely don't think so. Now, Spence made a comment. I don't know who the hell was interviewing him. I don't know if it was ES News or Fight Hype, Fight Hub. I don't know. I don't remember, right? I just know he made a comment. I think it was after Frank Martin's fight. He was sitting there. Derek James was talking. Something about Terence Crawford going to 154. And Spence saying, Crawford's not going to get a shot at Charlo before I do. Now, that didn't make any damn sense to me. But I think we've kind of peeled the layers back on this. Earl Spence and Charlo, right? This whole thing about undisputed at 147. I honestly think Crawford and Spence both have their eyes on Charlo. Charlo is Team Heyman. Crawford is not going to be able to fight himself into a shot with Jermall Charlo. But this is something Crawford can do. And I think he may pull the trigger on it. Now, my boy Mills, we were talking, and it made sense. Crawford is the WBO champion. These guys want to mess with Crawford and have him out here because when people keep saying, why doesn't Crawford fight Boots Ennis? And I keep telling y'all, the damn key decision makers, the secret society working against Crawford. He can't fight Boots Ennis. In the WBO, the champion can only fight fighters who are ranked in the WBO. That's a rule. That's not me saying that. That's a fact. So now you guys who are telling me I'm wrong, saying Crawford's ducking everyone, right? Yo, I'm telling y'all a fact right now. In order to compete for a title in the WBO, a boxer must be ranked. That's a fact. So you look at the fact that I talked about Virgil Ortiz. He's still hanging around in the WBO, but he's committed to fight over the WBA, right? So basically, you can just say he was plucked. He was plucked from the WBO. So Crawford can't fight him, right? We know Conor Benn is falling off, right? It is what it is. Cody Crowley. Guys are committed. You know, they've made sure that a lot of those big names, Mantis Stanley Eunice, you know, he got a title. Look, he fought for a title and won it. He's over there at the WBA. So you look at the big names. There's no one in the WBO. There's no one. Keith Thurman. He's in the WBO, but he's committed to fight Earl Spence. So Boots Ennis is out of there because IBF pulled him over for a fight. He won the title. Just pay attention to what I'm saying. Virgil Ortiz, he's out of there. Keith Thurman, he's out of there. The Cody Crowley's committed for a mandatory fight with the WBC. These villas and the other guy who just fought he fought Boots Ennis. He's out of there. Rashidi Ellis is all the way down at the bottom. He just lost. So when you look at what's left in the WBO, it's got to be boxers who are ranked in the WBO. Crawford has nothing. And I'm telling y'all, you got to know these rules. They knew by making those fights with all of those big names, notable names, pay-per-view worthy names, they knew if they were able to commit them underneath IBF, the WBA, the WBC, even for interim titles, any other title, right? Underneath those sanctioning bodies, Crawford, he can't come out there and compete with those guys. Now, there's always an exception to the rule, but for the most part, when it comes to defending that WBO title, he's got to do it against someone who's ranked. Crawford's not in position for a voluntary defense. They knew that. When Crawford decided to go fight this guy, Evanesian, is what it is. Evanesian was, somewhat ranked, but he kind of messed himself up. They said, all right, this is what we want to do. And they made sure to put him on WBO Island. So now when you look at Crawford and what he has to deal with, possibly fighting Alexis Rocha, maybe fighting Blair Cobb, right? Coming over there with De La Hoya. I'm not sure he's going to sign with De La Hoya. But I think Crawford's trying to figure out a way to get muscle behind him because he can go up to 154 and challenge the champion at 154 for that WBO title. Now, the thing is this, right? And what I'm giving y'all is facts, right? if you ask the question, can a guy like Terence Crawford hold multiple world titles, be a champion with the WBO title at 147 and the WBO title at 154? Can't do that. But what he can do is he can go up to 154 and challenge for that title. Right? That's his right. He can do that. And the thing is this, the WBO only recognizes one WBO champion per weight category. If a WBO champion boxer is competing in a new weight category for another WBO championship and wins, he has 10 days to declare to the WBO which championship he intends to defend under WBO rules. The other title is immediately declared vacant, and 2 or more WBO-rated boxers will compete in a championship bout or a possible elimination bout to determine a new WBO champion in the weight category. Terence Crawford is going to try to get to Jermell Charlo to get that undisputed fight underway if they mess with him. Look at what's going on, man. Crawford out here playing chess. Errol Spence is committed. He's got to make a decision. I think the more we peel this back, right, I honestly feel Spence and Thurman, that fight's going to be made at 147 for those 3 belts that Spence has. But I also feel now that Spence and Al Heyman, Al Heyman's not dumb. They're watching the way Crawford's moving, and they're like, this man's going to pull a trigger. And he may go and get an opportunity to avoid his mandatory at 147 and challenge the champion up at 154. Look, Tim Tszyu, Tony Harrison about to fight, right? Harrison may beat him. Now, I can't answer this, whether the winner between Harrison and Tszyu go immediately into a fight with Jermell. I don't know that. When Jermell comes back, Tim Tszyu and Harrison would have fought already. There's a good chance that Crawford could go and work a deal out to where he now challenges Jermell and can get to Jermell before the winner between Harrison and Tszyu. Now, I'm not, again, I don't know if the winner of Harrison and Tszyu goes to the front of the line for Jermell. Remember, Crawford has a belt at 147. He can bubble up and challenge at 154 Jermell Charlo. Now, if he challenges Jermell, Crawford could be challenging Jermell for that WBO belt, but for all those titles. I can't see where he just challenging Jermell just for the WBO, and now he becomes the WBO champion at 154, and Jermell still retains all the other belts. See, that's the piece I'm not sure about. But I think these are the discussions that are taking place behind the scenes. Remember, I'm not talking crap. We're just having a conversation. So as a result, you got Spence and Heyman watching, and that's why the talks about Spence fighting Jermell Charlo are starting to gain some momentum. Because it's like a race now. Spence knows he has to do something here with Thurman. He doesn't want to. Jermell's injured. You got Harrison and Tszyu. At some point, they're gonna fight soon. Jermell may be committed to them. You got Crawford just in the breeze. Crawford may pull the trigger, and the stars may line up to it. Crawford and Jermell have to fight now. And Errol Spence doesn't get that opportunity. It doesn't matter what you say. Jermell Charlo, Errol Spence, Derrick James. Lions only. Call themselves brothers, right? Errol Spence already said he'll fight Jermell. Brothers break bread. It's a big money fight. So then Errol Spence gets an opportunity. And this is what I think it's coming down to. I honestly think what we're going to see happening here is Crawford is going to make that move. He may get to Jermell before everybody else, because the stars are just look to be lining up a kind of way to if Crawford decides to pull the trigger and challenge a weight class above for that WBO title, and Crawford could win that fight. Let's be real here. You know, it's a good fight. Jermell can say whatever he wants about Crawford. Too small, whatever. Come up here to 154, get hurt. All the, the stuff that Jermell likes to say. But let's say Crawford goes up there and he beats him. And I don't know how they're going to do all the titles, but he can beat him and get that WBO. But if he beats him and becomes the undisputed at 154, he gets to go up, beat one fighter, and win all the titles. But I'm not sure if it's going to be a situation where he beats Jermell and he only gets the WBO. And then Jermell keeps the other belts. See, I'm not sure how that will work. That's why we're seeing, if this thing with Earl Spence and Thurman, if that fight would have happened already, and depending on what the WBC did, where it's like, okay, only the WBC belt was on the line, you see, then I could be able to add a little more context to what I'm saying. Right now, I honestly don't know. But when I'm looking at it, let's say Crawford was to challenge Jermell Charlo and beat him, and he wins all those belts. He immediately becomes the undisputed at 154. So when you see these guys getting quiet, when you see these guys doing a lot of lateral movement and going from this person to that person, this organization, that organization, conversation taking place, you better believe with my boy Mills, when he's out here doing his work, I'm out here doing my work, strategically thinking, and we come together and we start talking. You better believe guys like Crawford, and he's talking to people, and he's trying to figure out, okay, they're trying to alienate me. They're trying to ostracize me. How do I circumvent all this and come out ahead? Because they're trying to put me in the back. They're trying to put me way in the back. How do I get to the front of the bus? I want to sit right there in the front. And that's what I believe is taking place. Now, how frustrating you think that will be for Earl Spence if Crawford's able to pull the trigger and as a WBO champion challenge Jermall Charlo at 154. And Jermell gets forced in a position where now he has to fight Crawford because Crawford decided to activate. I can't remember what it's called. I don't know if it's not champion in recess. It may be. I don't know. But nevertheless, he decides to challenge him, and he gets activated and gets approved. And now Jermell has to fight Terence Crawford. The boxing world will be turned upside down. That would catch on like a wildfire, and it would spread, and it would set the whole boxing community ablaze. Now, for those of you who are still sitting and saying, "No, I don't know that," listen, what I'm telling you is this is Crawford's right. Look, Josh Taylor was looking at doing the same thing. He'll bubble up, challenge Terence Crawford for the WBO belt because Taylor had the WBO. If he loses, he comes back down. If he wins, you got to make a decision. Do we keep the belt at the high weight class or come back down to the lower weight class? Remember, Amanda Serrano, she did that with Katie Taylor. She jumped up, fought her. If she would have won, she would have had to make, she'll be the undisputed there. But, but she lost. But she had to come back down to the weight class she was at. She didn't lose anything. So what I'm saying is we've seen this happen before. But I know for a fact I'm not smarter than these key decision makers surrounding Crawford, these key decision makers surrounding Earl Spence when it comes to boxing. You know what I mean? I'm not. The stuff that we go and look up here as far as the whole the ABC and the WBO and all the rules and everything, man. Now, when I say ABC, I'm talking about the Association of Boxing Commission's criteria, right? When we're going to look that up, I read through several pages about 4 or 5 times to make sure I understand it and what really applies to what I'm trying to deliver to you. Then I come and I share that. But something else I wanted to point out, right? So that's the direction I think Crawford is going to go if they keep playing with him. I also think Earl Spence is looking to maybe to get out in front of Crawford before Crawford makes that move. And him and his buddy Jermell, look, Jermell has a doctor's note, right? He got this little weird injury. Got a doctor's note though, right? He's not going to be marked unexcused absence. Hey, principal, I have my doctor's note. But at the same time, maybe he and Earl Spence, now we don't know this. Maybe he and Earl Spence already working that deal out. That's why Suleiman is talking about speculating and all this other crap, and nothing's been announced. So what I'm telling you is there's a lot going on that I don't think we should pigeonhole ourselves with our thoughts of just thinking Earl Spence and Keith Thurman are going to go one way. Terence Crawford and De La Hoya go one way. Earl Spence and Crawford can only go one way. Look, these guys have options. And that's why I don't think it's going to happen. Now, when I was talking about, I don't think Spence and Crawford are going to happen. I don't. Because right now, it's about the easiest route to undisputed. And it's not making a deal at 147. It may be if Crawford can just bubble his butt up and fight Jermell for all the belts. It may be if Spence can just bubble up and fight his boy for all the belts. Right? Two brothers that make a bunch of money together. They laugh about it after. They already spar and damn near kill each other down there in camp with Derrick James. Why not just do it, make an official fight? But I'm going to tell y'all something. It ties into the whole secret society thing. Now, the WBO was formed in 1988, okay? I think this is important for y'all to understand this. When a group of businessmen from Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic, they broke away from the WBA convention in a dispute over WBA rules for championship bouts and objections to the WBA rating system of the time. As such, they decided to form their own organization. The WBO has its headquarters in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Now, they talk about the name of the people who are the president. Doesn't really matter. Early in its history, the WBO was only lightly regarded by boxing fans, observers, and the press at large. This was for several reasons, including, but not necessarily limited to, a couple of things. The rules set for WBO championship bouts. The WBO maintained the use of 3 knockdown rules at the time when the Association of Boxing Commissions and other boxing organizations had abolished it. But, since then, it's been resolved. But this is what I really want to key in on. The WBO and WBC was a huge dispute between those two sanctioning bodies. Let me tell you something. Mauricio Suleiman's dad, Jose Suleiman, and a guy, Francisco Valcarcel, right? They had a long-standing personal dispute in the 80s and 90s. As such, WBO champions were forced to vacate their WBO championships without consideration if the boxer holding the WBO title elected to fight for a WBC championship. That's crazy. So if you had a WBO title, you had to give it up to challenge for a WBC. That's horrible. The dispute was amicably resolved in the mid-1990s, paving the way for the 4-belt era that continues to this present day. Now, when you just think about that last piece, that supposedly has been resolved, but we see a lot of the decisions that are being made in boxing, right? Makes you wonder, was it resolved? Is there still some underlying tension there? Someone's still feeling to be a bit nefarious, a bit spiteful, to complicate things for other sanctioning bodies when they can? Because the WBO, they don't seem to really get that much love. But now I have this kind of background. It helps me to kind of understand it a little bit better. There was a time where the Ring magazine and loosely affiliated entities refused to acknowledge WBO championships, championship bouts, and title holders in their pages or television programs. Isn't that crazy? So when it comes to the WBO, out of all the belts, that may be one of the belts where you could find yourself hitting a wall when trying to make really big fights, because I just don't think it has the respect of the other belts. See, once you really start getting and peeling this stuff back to understand these key decision makers and the secret society, man, it starts to make sense. But for Terence Crawford, this man playing chess. And I want to see how this plays out. The next 6 months are going to be very interesting. Very interesting. It doesn't even make sense to do any more videos about Spence and Crawford and the negotiation. Look, if they get to the negotiations, I'm still going to be watching, because I have a feeling they say they get to the negotiations and, Spence decides whatever. Him and Al Heyman, Spence's team, I'll just say that, right? They decide, no, there's a better opportunity to go challenge at 154. They may tie up Terence Crawford to say, nah, man, let's talk and let's try to make this happen. Bring his guard down just enough, and they pull the trigger and go and go out there and have Al Heyman fighters fighting each other at 154 instead of bringing this guy from the WBO to come and challenge Jermell. But it's a winnable fight. Tough fight for both of them, but Crawford is a special fighter. Anything can happen. Anything can happen. So I ask you guys to just sit there, man, and have an open mind about it. What do you think is going to happen? You know what I'm saying? What do you think is going to happen? I am very interested to see. It's Crawford. See, you got the hare and you got the tortoise. The hare gets out front. You see, and I think with Crawford and Spence, we've seen where each of them have gone from being the tortoise to the hare, and then the hare to the tortoise. And you see them switching those positions depending on the moves they're making, because it's chess going on right now. But the thing is, Spence has Al Heyman on his team. Al Heyman's smart. He's got connections. Crawford's going to need to have somebody if he's trying to make these kind of moves. Is De La Hoya the man to do it? I don't know. But something's better than nothing. But let's wait and see how this plays out. Now, you guys leave your comments below. Let's start that little conversation. But if Terence Crawford can go challenge for that WBO and get an opportunity at Undisputed, one shot, that could be the move he makes. If not, just to go up to 154, challenge for the WBO, and win the belt, then he's in there. But if he loses, he still has his belt at 147. So it's a risk-reward thing. But I don't think anybody's going to be frustrated if Terence Crawford was to lose to Jermell Charlo. He's still a champion at 147. But let's see how this plays out. But gives you guys another layer to things to really stop and think about. You know what I'm saying? Let's not get so far ahead of ourselves. This thing with Crawford and Spence is not that simple to understand and break down. It doesn't make sense for me to come and have a live and start spewing lies to y'all. Like, I'm going to go live tomorrow. Today is February 1st, February 2nd, I'm going to go live, I think, at 12. I'm going to put it out on Twitter, right? But you may want to hop on that live, because this is something that I want to talk about. That being said, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, all 7 continents. I'm in the breeze.